All right, welcome into the Oshner Andrew Sports Medicine Institute podcast studio for another episode of NewOrleans.Football presented by PJ's Coffee. We are coming to you from our studio right next door to Matt Bauer's state-of-the-art Ford dealership up here on Betts. But if you don't want a Ford, he's got pretty much every type of car that you could want, so check him out at one of his many locations. Matt's your guy. He's our guy. He's a local guy, so buy your car from him. Our first topic is presented by Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey. And Kellen Moore made some comments last week, kind of a little bit lukewarm. It sounded like on Derek Carr, not a full commitment, at least to him, which raises the question. Do you think Spencer Rattler is ready to run this offense in full?
I wouldn't mind seeing it. I mean, Spencer Rattler went 0-6 last year. That's kind of a misnomer of a number. Actually, his best performance was the game Jake Haener started, and he came in at halftime and almost beat the Commanders, who went to the NFC Championship game. The thing I liked about Rattler was it didn't seem too big for him. He didn't look overwhelmed. He didn't look a step slow. It didn't seem too fast for him. He seemed comfortable, but he's got limitations. I mean, maybe he shouldn't have been a fifth-round pick. Maybe he should have been a third-round pick. Maybe he should have been a second-round pick. I made Will Levis comparisons, but even if he was Will Levis and he was picked 40th overall or whatever Will Levis was picked, there's going to be highs and lows. There's going to be bumps in the road. He's got a height disadvantage. He's not a perfect quarterback, but I saw enough that I'm not scared to throw him out there and give him a year. I think he'd be better than Desmond Ridder or something like that. So I'd like to see it if that's the route they go. If they decide to save money, I think you can give Spencer Rattler a real look in this offense with a really smart offensive mind who's building the offense around him and maybe be competitive. I wouldn't rule out being competitive with him.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a guy that needs to learn how to show up the way he says he's going to show up. You know what I mean? Like he kind of will be there and then disappear a little bit, and he needs to be
one half in every game.
Yeah. He'll promise, and it doesn't come through the way it's supposed to come through, but if he could show up the way he's supposed to show up consistently, I think he has a real chance of being who he could be and who he's supposed to be. And the talent's obviously there. Like if you watch it, there's a million things to be excited about. Like the throws, the confidence, the ability to handle pressure, the scrambling, I think is a huge thing. And watching Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl, it's hard not to be like, well, man, like having that trait is something that Spencer has that Carr doesn't have, and that could help a little bit just with some of these breakdowns and everything. And it's definitely something that's a tool in, a lot of good quarterbacks' toolboxes, but it's the inconsistencies of him that are the only thing that's really holding him back. Like if he could take who he is for a half of every game and extrapolate it 4 quarters every single time he takes the field, I mean, you have something there. Like that's a good player. But I could easily see an offensive coach coming in here looking at him and being like, I want to work with that. Like, That's young, it's cheap, it's exciting, and I can mold it into what I want it to be without these kind of warts. And I think some of the stuff that hurts Carr, like off the field, hurts him on the field as well. Like just kind of like that protection of reputation and self at times. Like I think sometimes you see it in the red zone. I think sometimes you see it with like the throwaways and some of the decisions that he makes and the fear of throwing a pick. Like, as weird as it sounds, I wish Derek Carr would throw more interceptions because, like, sometimes I feel like it's a little bit too tight and there's just a little bit too much of, I don't want to make a mistake here. Like, I don't want to be blamed for this loss. And I think if you just went out there and let it rip, Rattler's still someone that'll go out there and let it rip. And you have to do that within certain confines. And I'm sure that, if you're a pro Carr person right now, you're thinking that's an insane statement. If you're anti-Carr, you're thinking it's an insane statement. But like I think it's the truth. Like that there just needs to be a little bit of a loosening up there of sorts, and I think that would make him a better player. Maybe Kellen Moore could bring that out of him. I don't know, but yeah, I think Spencer Rattler certainly, if it was a decision made to allow him to try to run it, I would be curious to see how it would go. I would be for finding out. I don't know what the result would be though.
Yeah,
like I can't. I can't endorse anyone. So
if you told me to bet on how Spencer Rattler's career turns out, I'm probably gonna short Spencer Rattler. Like history just tells us that. Like there's a few Russell Wilsons and Dak Prescotts out there, but for the most part, even first round picks. But definitely, I mean, Kenny Pickett, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson. I mean, there's so many young guys who have some talent, and it just never happened. I keep bringing up Will Levis as a recent example. Like, Desmond Ritter, who is it? Malik Willis.
I think he's got more upside than Levis.
Maybe, but I'm saying like if I'm going to look at it analytically, I'm going to bet against him. Like you got to be a top 5 pick to have even higher than a 50% chance of panning out. But I am not holding last year against him. I mean, he got thrown into the fire as a rookie, mid-season as an injury replacement. Then he got taken out of the lineup. Then he got put back in the lineup. He was playing behind just an injury-tormented offensive line, like barely an offensive line at all. A lot of times he didn't have his receivers available, and it wasn't a very good team in general, and the defense wasn't playing well when he was in game. I mean, it's just like in no way am I like, well, my mind's made up on Spencer Rattler now because we saw it last year. No, there is a much fuller determination to be made. I also don't know if he'll ever get there, but I know that we don't know yet. And I'm excited by a lot of the things I'd like to watch someone try to develop him and find out. Somebody asked us in the last show, should the Saints draft Jackson Dart? Let's say the Saints drafted Jackson Dart at 9. I think Spencer Rattler could work out just as well or not as well as Jackson Dart. Like,
no doubt.
I would look at it the same way. Like maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. And for that reason, I almost I would want the Saints to draft a sure thing at quarterback, tank for Arch, bring in Doug Nussmeier, then tank for his son or whatever next year, have a top 5 pick, trade up in the draft, whatever it takes or whatever. But I don't know that I need to trade in Spencer Rattler for the 4th best quarterback in this year's class. I think I'd rather work with Rattler.
Yeah, I'm not saying that he's going to be better than Will Levis. I just think if you put both of them in front of me right now and said take one, I'd probably go Rattler. Like I think Rattler probably has a higher ceiling than Levis. Levis I feel like I've seen more warts out of him, and it's just probably because he's played in 21 games or whatever, and like I think did he throw more picks than touchdowns last year? It was like a 50-50 split, something like that. But I feel like Rattler's got, I don't know. Like I would rather work with him than Levis right now. But Levis might end up having a better career, but it's just unrealized potential right now. It feels like Rattler has a little bit more than
he ended up 13-12
than him right now. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, definitely. I could see it going either way with him, which is going to take us into our next topic presented by Urban South. How much we've kind of heard that Kellen Moore is someone that's willing to go into a situation, look at it, and take pieces of what they do and make it part of what he's doing with the team if they do something really, really well. Kept parts of Joe Lombardi's passing offense for Justin Herbert because it suited him. Kept pieces of the Philly run game because it suited them and what they were doing. Is there anything here that he comes into and says, man, they're doing this really well, should keep this a part of the offense?
Yeah, I mean, I asked him that question last week about the offensive line. I'm like, I can't ignore the gains this offensive line made in that Kubiak-Shanahan system that half the NFL runs. Not only that players like Eric McCoy thrived in it, it's obviously what Tali Fuaga was sort of, handpicked to run because he also ran it in college. They've got smaller athletic offensive linemen. I don't think you have to tailor anything specifically to Cesar Ruiz or Trevor Penning or anything like that. So it's more about Eric McCoy and Tali Fuaga, but just in general, Alvin had the best year he's had in 5 years. The offensive linemen seem to love it. Eric McCoy, I think people woke up and realized how dominant he is. I think it's the best he's ever looked. So it's really interesting because Kellen Moore answered that question. Yeah, we've dabbled in that. Like they had some of that in Dallas. But he said obviously in Philly where he just had a 2,000-yard rusher, it was a lot more of gap scheme, the big offensive lineman they have there. So he was non-committal on that. But yeah, I wouldn't just toss that out and try to teach him a new system from scratch necessarily. But the beauty of the offensive line is you can incorporate both. Like, it can look different from series to series anyway. And I'm sure that's probably what it'll end up as.
I mean, no, everybody does a little bit of everything. Yeah. It's just a matter of how much you're calling. So yeah, I mean, I think you take some of that though because it suits Alvin really well. Maybe you do more of that. Like he was kind of doing more man blocking stuff in Philly. I think maybe you lean the other way here, given with the players that you have, and you can hide some of your weaknesses on the line. I'd take the Taysom package and try to take a lot of what Kubiak was doing, and if you're going to keep him on the team and add to that,
that's a big if.
Yeah, if he's on the team is a big if. Yeah. But blow it up, man. Like, do your thing, blow it up. Like, I don't think there's a lot here I don't think Clint Kubiak's a better designer of offense than Kellen Moore. Like, get it out. Like, throw it away. Like, there's pieces of it that you like, let it inform it, but I don't think there's anything here that you're being like, man, this is a better offensive system than what I have, and it's just not. Like, it's just not. So
but here's what he said to us about Justin Herbert. And we shouldn't take anything that he did with the Chargers and run with it, because it was unsuccessful with the Chargers. But I think he was actually answering a question about Sean Payton, and he said, yeah, when I got to L.A., I replaced Joe Lombardi, and that's what Justin Herbert had been running. And so I went through there, and I found out, oh, Justin Herbert's really good at this stuff. He's really comfortable with this stuff, so I'll keep that. So as long as he's doing it in that vein, like, oh, Eric McCoy is really good at this stuff, why force him to, hey, actually, why don't you gain 10 pounds and try to do this stuff instead? If Eric McCoy's really good at something, do that and incorporate it into your office. It doesn't have to mean run an offense you don't agree with or you're not familiar with.
Yeah, but I'm not catering to my offensive line either. Like, they need to be able to the outside block and man block, and they
hopefully
need the
they
zone
could
block.
do both.
Yeah, and you can't do it. Like, that's a huge problem. But yeah, I'm not catering to my center though. Like, just in that specific example, like, and I don't think Derek Carr did anything good enough to where it's like we're gonna run Clint's passing offense because like Derek was just so good at this, or this suited them. Like, I think that you can just kind of blow it up. Like, I just don't think that there was enough good here to kind of keep it going in any which way. Just but the outside, I would just call a heavier dose of outside zone run plays, because like they did work well, and you do have fast offensive linemen. But I don't think you say like, no, we aren't going to do like man blocking, and they did do some of that last year, and it was fine too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm starting over. Like,
what happens at the goal line? Tush push?
It's a good question. Like, I wonder.
That's not his thing. I mean, that was in Philly long before he got there.
No, but it's like weird that everybody can't do it. And I think part of it's having the offensive line and then having the ball carrier. Like, you kind of wonder, like, is Taysom from someone that you could do that with? And I'm not being funny here. Like, I just wonder, like, if you don't do it because of the hand size, like, is the grip on the ball like enough to put him in that situation? I don't know. Yeah. But if you can incorporate that, it's a cheat code. It really is. Like,
it's crazy.
It's wild to me that everybody can't do it.
The same way, like, the Breeze leap and the Brady leap worked for those two guys. Why did that only work for two guys? Especially Drew Brees being only 6 feet tall. But it's a reminder, not everyone can do. Like, why was Justin Herbert not leap? Why doesn't he's 6'6" or whatever? Why doesn't he leap over the line every single time?
All right, we'll do it for this first part of the show. We'll be back with more show after this break. Ochsner Hospital for Orthopedics and Sports Medicine on Clearview Parkway is celebrating 5 years of exceptional achievements. The hospital's integrated team has successfully performed over 20,000 surgeries using the latest in cutting-edge technology. With nationally recognized services and impactful partnerships, they continue to lead the advancement of orthopedic and sports medicine care in our region.
Rouse's Markets is voted best grocery store in New Orleans, best grocery store in Baton Rouge, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Thibodaux, Houma, Hammond, Lake Charles, Mobile, year after year. Thank you for choosing us best grocery store on the Gulf Coast. Number one. Thank you.
Thank you.
The number one grocery store
In Mississippi, Alabama,
Louisiana. 1 million customers a week can't be wrong. Welcome to Rouse's.
The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. NewOrleans.Football is proudly sponsored by Urban South Brewery, the makers of Paradise Park Lager. I love supporting local breweries, and when looking for a refreshing, easy drinking beer, I always recommend Paradise Park. In fact, I think it might be the best game day beer out there. If you want something a little lighter, try Paradise Light. It's everything I love about Paradise Park with just 96 calories and 2.6 carbs. And if you're looking for a family-friendly place to watch the game, I'd recommend Urban South's Tap Room in the Lower Garden District. They've got 15 TVs, 30 unique beers on tap, and mouth-watering urban smash burgers. the whole family will want to make Urban South their new living room because at Urban South, they take laid back seriously. Looking for the best insurance coverage at the lowest price? Look no further than Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. They are a local independent insurance agency right here in New Orleans, specializing in home, flood, and auto insurance. At Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, their dedicated team will shop every available carrier in the market, ensuring you get the most comprehensive coverage at the lowest possible price. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Trust Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, to protect what matters most to you. I do. I've been a client of theirs since 2021. Call them today at 504-326-6526 or visit them online at Protected by Chabert. That's 504-326-6526. Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, your local insurance experts. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. Attention Saints fans, don't let pests and termites invade your home field. Trust the team at Red Pest Solutions to tackle those unwelcome visitors. Call the Red Man today for unbeatable pest and termite control. Score peace with no pest. Visit redpest.com, REDDPEST.com. All right, that brings us into our next topic presented by Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. How quickly can the Saints build the trenches to reach Moore's vision for the team? He said last week when talking that he kind of sees a football team being defined by the offensive line / defensive lines, wants to build it up from there. That's the identity of your team, the spirit of your team. We saw that with the Eagles. They have like the best offensive line in the NFL. No, not like. They have the best offensive line in the NFL. Their defensive line controlled that game to the point that Pat Mahomes couldn't scramble and he had to play from the pocket while they were rushing for the whole entire game. Is it realistic to expect a quick turnaround there? What was interesting to me, too, is he mentioned the investment on the offensive line at one point. And I was like, man, these guys aren't that good.
They're all first-round picks. They're just not very good, but maybe they work for his system. Yeah, here's my thinking on the offensive and defensive lines. It's where I would invest the most. Number one and number two.
Which is what they have been doing, too.
Yeah,
it just hasn't worked.
But that doesn't mean it's wrong because, I mean, how many times have you seen this week? I know you don't scroll Twitter anymore. Good for you. I'm so proud of you. But I have seen several times, like, Howie Roseman proved once again that investing in the offensive line and defensive line over and over again is the way to do it.
It is. It is the way to do it. It is the way to do it. You just got to pick the right plays, and the Saints have not.
You just can't miss. But if I'm being as optimistic as possible, the Saints have a lot of useful pieces on both lines. Like, I don't need to get rid of Cesar Ruiz. I don't need to get rid of Brian Brzee. I don't need to get rid of Carl Granderson. Those guys should be my second and third and fourth best guys, though. So I think they need to hit on one all-pro offensive lineman and one all-pro defensive lineman. I'd love to have two. I'd love to have both an end and a tackle. But I don't think they need like 5 new offensive linemen and 5 new defensive linemen. So I think it comes down to hitting on one or two guys. Like, I don't think, they tried that with Chase Young. I don't think they're going to go back to that well, depending on how much money they're spending in free agency. They've got some picks to work with. The 9th pick, an early pick in round 2. I hope at least one of those is, I guess this is probably a 2-year plan, but give me a top 50 pick on the offensive line and a top 50 pick on the defensive line, and hopefully that just rises everyone else along with it. I mean, it's impossible to say you're gonna like bring in 3 new guys on both lines. You just can't. You don't have the resources.
Like, if they hit on like a badass edge rusher, like I think it changes the complexion of that line so quickly. Yeah. Like, it would just really make it feel different.
Yeah, if Granderson and Brzee are your like second and third best defensive linemen, it's way better than if
Like, if you hit on someone or like a badass DT, that would be great. It just feels so far off. Like, and I think the thing I think the D line feels further away to me than the O line because it at least feels like there's maybe some
I've got 3 starters
young
written in ink on the offensive line, and that's not Trevor. That's Cesar Ruiz is my third,
and Fuaga
and McCoy. Like, so that's and I don't mind one guy being a James Hurst caliber lineman. So it's just like one more guy on the offensive line. whether you're replacing Penning or whether you're replacing Lucas Patrick, like one more like really good player on the offensive line, I feel like I can go to war with it.
D-line, like it just doesn't feel like there's anyone even in the pipeline right now. And I don't know, maybe Christian Boyd's great, and maybe I don't know.
Were you going to say maybe Foskey and then you changed your mind?
Like
I know they just drafted someone in the second round recently.
I don't know. I don't know where they're coming from, but it feels so far off. But I do feel like if you hit, but it just feels so hard to hit on an edge guy, and maybe that's just PTSD from watching the Saints, and it just feels like you're never going to find one because they've been looking for so long and they haven't. But yeah, it feels like it's going to be a project though, and it's going to take considerable resources. But if you make 2 good picks on the D line over the next 2 drafts, like you're there. Like
give me
you're
2
close.
good draft picks, and then I think by next year you can spend money in free agency. Maybe you supplement one of those positions with free agent. Like they're 3 or 4 players away. That's a lot, but that's not impossible. That's not impossible.
Yeah, like I don't want it to sound easy or like a massively daunting task, but like, and we know how hard it is to hit on draft picks, so it isn't like just hit on a pick and you're good. Like, but if you do hit on some picks, they really can change things really fast for you, and that is a spot where I feel like if you got like Abdul Carter isn't going to be there, but if you were to get that guy and he's a hit, like it just changes everything so fast for you. But I don't think that's very realistic. But that's going to do it for this segment, and we'll be right back with the Martin's question of the day. Total Maintenance is one of the largest locally owned home and commercial service providers in South Louisiana and serve the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge markets. They have a membership program that gets you 2 tune-up visits for AC and heating, as well as club membership discounts of 15% on all repairs, half off of all diagnostic charges, and 3-year warranties on most repairs for membership clients. This is usually priced at the low price of $24.95 a month per system, but if you tell Total Maintenance that you found them through NOF, they'll lower the price to $20.95 per month per system for as long as you keep the membership active. Services include AC and heating service and replacement, electrical service, plumbing service, as well as generator service and installation. They are Total Maintenance. Find them at tm-ac.com or give them a call at 504-841-3300, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, 225-480-1000. Martin's is your go-to destination for everything merry and bright this holiday season. From an unmatched selection of bourbon, whiskeys, and wines to gourmet food, gift baskets, and catering, Martin's has all your holiday needs covered. Family owned and operated since 1946, Martin's knows the perfect ways to celebrate this season with loved ones. Visit them in Metairie, New Orleans, or Baton Rouge, or shop online for the ultimate convenience. Whether you're raising a glass or looking for the perfect holiday gift, make it an easy and cheerful holiday with Martin's.
Here at the Queen Casino, indulgence knows no bounds. Prepare your taste buds for an extraordinary culinary journey. Start your day at Capital Coffee. Craving something different? Three Walks Noodle Bar offers a tantalizing selection of Asian delights. At 1717 Kitchen and Cocktails, savor American cuisine with a twist. Or ascend to the loft for an elevated experience. Enjoy artesian grazing boards and exquisite craft cocktails. Join us at the Queen Casino. Your royal adventure awaits.
Welcome back to NewOrleans.Football presented by PJ's Coffee. It is now time for the Martin's question of the day. Martin's is home to a wide selection of hand-picked, barrel-select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's, so much more than just wine. And by the way, we are recording this on Friday, so if there's something outdated here, we're not talking about something all in this show, it's because we recorded this on Friday and put one in the tuck, giving everybody a day off on Monday after the Super Bowl and coaching search and everything. So trying to get one day back here. But yeah, Martin's is home to a wide selection of hand-picked, barrel-select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's, so much more than just wine. Question is, what are the realistic expectations for the Saints ceiling and the floor this season?
I mean, geez, a lot to be determined there, right? Like, it depends on how willing they are to let the floor drop. But as we said on the Friday show, like, even if they decide to cut Derek Carr, that's the only move they make. I mean, they have to keep everyone else. So they're not gutting the entire roster. It would be Spencer Rattler leading a roster led by Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave and Eric McCoy and DeMario Davis and Pete Werner and Tyrann Mathieu. So that team could still be competitive and maybe win, depending on how good Spencer Rattler is or whoever else they brought in. If they bring in a veteran that's cheap like Garoppolo or something like that, or hey, maybe he wants Kenny Pickett, who knows? But like maybe that team could win 6 games and then shoot the moon and be way more competitive than we ever expected in this lousy division and win 8 or 9. Like I don't think this is going to look like the Tennessee Titans this year. I don't think this is going to be a 2-15 team this year, kind of no matter what path they take. And obviously, if they keep everybody, if they keep Carr and they keep everybody and they actually spend on 1 or 2 free agents and decide, hey, we're not going to – if they treat it like they treated each of the last 2 off seasons, then they might be healthy enough to win 10. But my ceiling probably somewhere around 10.
Yeah, I mean, I think every team that's like picking between 1, maybe not 1, but let's move it down to like 4, starting with the Patriots, to Dallas, Miami, Indy, Atlanta, Arizona. I think all those teams feel like they can probably win 10 games next year. Everybody in that bubble, there's probably a path to do it, and some of them always do. But the floor for all of them is like 3. Like it is. If you got rid of Derek Carr, like your floor is 3. Like you could very easily be like a 2-3 win team. But if you keep everyone together, yeah, I think if you keep everyone together, you're totally healthy. You spend it, like you said, a few things. I agree. I think 10 is there. Like it is. It's there for everybody. It's the NFL.
I don't think they should pursue it.
No, I don't
aggressively.
I don't either.
But it's not impossible.
You're playing a last place schedule and you could win 10 games. Like it's just that's the NFL. It is the NFL. Everybody feels like they can win 10 and everybody's a couple hits away from winning 5. Like it's just kind of the way it is in that middle tier. And then if you're on the top tier, obviously,
5,
you aren't getting the 5 if you're Buffalo. But if you're Tampa's an injury or 2 away from being a 5-win team. Denver, they're in the playoffs. Pittsburgh is right there. The Chargers could easily be. They were a 5-win team that turned into an 11-win team, I believe. So yeah, I mean, I think that variance is just kind of there for everybody, but
3
I don't
is
think
hard. I mean, 3 requires injuries though. There's only a couple teams that 5 is, yeah. I mean, 3 requires. I guess Cleveland fell to 3 this year. That really
they
collapsed.
just won 5 games chasing 10. Like if you cut Carr, you could easily.
But that's what I'm saying.
Team.
If they won 5 last year,
well, they won 0 without Carr.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
If you cut Carr, you can't do nothing else. Like you could very easily be a 3-win team, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like they'd be a 5-win team that would have a 5-win team with bad luck becomes a 3-win team.
I'm not predicting 3. I'm just saying like their floor, like their floor is like very.
There were no 3. Has there only been 2 3-win teams in the last 3 years? 3 is tough. 3 is tough. How about those 0-win teams, man? That's really tough. But. Yeah, there's been basically. Oh no, there were 3 years.
There were 3. There were 3 3-win teams this year.
3?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought
Tennessee,
there were only
Cleveland,
2.
and the Giants.
Oh, Cleveland. I forgot about Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean it's tough to get there,
can
but like
happen.
they didn't win a game without the starting quarterback, and you would be gutting your roster kind of at that point because you got to get under the cap and you can't add anybody. It could very. I think that there's a very realistic floor of 3 wins for this team if they're trying not to win next year. Like I think you can win 3 games on purpose here kind of easily.
It's the path I want them to take, the path that invites a 3-win floor and then watch them try to exceed expectations without investing any of their future into this year's team.
Well, I don't know. I guess we'll end it on that very depressing note.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I want them to take the 3-win path and then surprise everyone by like being in contention all year long with Spencer Rattler at quarterback.
I mean, well, that would be great. But even the 3, like I could sit through a 3-win on purpose. Yeah. Like 3 wins on purpose that's a plan. 3 wins on accident, that's a disaster.
Exactly.
So whatever they're doing, whatever they aim for, I hope they get to it, and I hope they aren't aiming too hard for 10. But that's going to do it for us on this show. We'll talk to you guys next time.